is on the air. This is Fort Bond at Navin Field, Detroit, where the St. Louis Cardinals and the Detroit Tigers start their battle for the World Championship. The play-by-play descriptions of all the World Series games are brought to you with the compliments of the Ford Motor Company, Mr. Henry Ford, Mr. Edgar Ford, and your local Ford dealer, producers and distributors of Ford and Lincoln cars and Ford trucks. The sponsors will be amply repaid if you get enjoyment from these broadcasts. In order that you might hear the play-by-play description of this game in its entirety, a number of advertisers have kindly omitted their regular afternoon broadcast. Among those are CAME programs, usually heard at 3:15 over some of these stations. The program this afternoon will be heard instead at 4:30. Also Procter & Gamble, manufacturers of Draft, and the makers of Octodol, who are moving their broadcast from 3 o'clock to 4:30. In behalf of the Ford Motor Company and the National Broadcasting Company, we wish to thank them for their courtesy. Now, fans, ladies and gentlemen, we present a man whose voice has been familiar to you over the air for years. Here he is to give you the thrill and color of this World Series pregame atmosphere. It's wild around here, a crowd fills the park, but here is the man who can tell you about it and picture it to you right there in your home. It's Graham McNamee, and here he is. Thanks, Ford. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience. We're at Navin Field this afternoon in Detroit, Michigan. In just about 15 minutes, or even a little less, the World Series will be opened by the umpire who will howl, play ball. And in this case, it will be Geisel of the American League who will be behind the plate this afternoon. When he yells play ball, then the party will start. Magic words for the 47,000 wild-eyed, rabid baseball fans gathered in the stands, while thousands mill around the park, hoping that by some miracle they'll be able to squeeze themselves through those turnstiles tomorrow with a shoehorn or something of the kind. The Detroit Tigers and the St. Louis Cardinals, the Redbirds, that's the setup. And his general opinion is correct. The next week should produce a series of games which will make the blood flow plenty fast through the veins of those fortunate fans lucky enough to be here and in the stands down at St. Louis the latter part of the week. The bleacher crowd began to gather outside the park 2 days back, and this morning at 4 a.m. Oh, that's an awful hour to be up. I saw 5,000 expectant bleacherites waiting more or less patiently for the gates to open. They were a good-natured crowd, turning jokes here and there, playing cards, sleeping in blankets, or even in newspapers, those who were not fortunate enough to have blankets. Even a bit of a trap shooting game was going on here and there. The penny ante was indulged in. The weather coming into Detroit last night on the American Airways was just a bit threatening. It was very thick up above, and our ship even had a touch of difficulty coming in because the haze was so strong. But it's okay now. The weather remained bad most of the morning, and it looked as though it might possibly rain. But about 11:45, the sun just managed to peep through the haze, and although it's not clear now, all thought of rain has been dispelled. That's over for today. Fastball pitching should go mighty well in the semi-haze of today. We're situated just off first base on top of a double-deck stand, and although we're 150 feet off the foul line, we're so high up that the bag looks like a short jump from here. The series this year resembles last year's battle in that both teams are under first-year managers. Frankie Frisch, the old Fordham Flash, took over the Cardinals after midseason last year. And Mike Cochran of the Tigers came to Detroit after last season. From Philadelphia, of course, where he has been under Connie Mack for many years. Both are playing managers, of course. Frisch covering second for the Cards and still losing his cap now and then as he shags those Texas leaguers into right and center field. And Cochran, who is one of the greatest catchers ever to wear a chest protector. Both men know baseball from start to finish. They're no newcomers to the game. They're in there and know every move. And both are known as players who are at their best when the going is tough. As money players, there's no choice between these two managers, and they're the best there are. I don't believe there ever was a series that promised more color and spice and pep with that Pepper March, Medwick, Frisch, and the Dean brothers. Dizzy and Daffy for the Cards, and Cochran, Behringer, Greenberg, and Schoolboy Rowe for the Tigers. Detroit is more hungry for this series than any city in my recollection. 13 years at the microphone on World Series. The city has been eating, sleeping, and talking World Series for weeks and has packed every available inch of the stand. Just about every available inch now. They're coming in droves, and it won't be long before we won't be able to see a seat in the place unoccupied. And to cheer the Tigers on to victory. Opinion as to the outcome seems more even than I've ever seen it before. A fine band has been entertaining the crowd, and Al Jack has furnished a lot of laughs with his antics as leader of the band and playing the clown at third base, as only Al can do it. A mob of groundskeepers has just been manicuring the base paths, and the foul lines have been newly chalked, and all is ready to grow. Well, the crowd color from the visual angle is not quite what we have seen it at times. The reason of that being, of course, is because it's rather chilly today. Men have on their overcoats and hats. You don't see any white shirts out today, and the ladies are done up in their furs and coats. So the color is just a little bit drab through the stand as it is through the sky. But the incentive to come to this series is there just the same. The umpires today are, at the plate, Geisel of the American League. At first base, that grand old-timer, Bill Clem of the National League. And by the way, it's way back in 1909 since that Detroit won its last pennant. Not a World Series, but a pennant. And Bill Clem, way back there in 1909, was one of the umpires of that series. In fact, he's the only one of the four umpires who worked at that time who is alive today. At second base, Reardon. Clem will be at first. At second base, Reardon of the National League. And at third base, Owens of the American League. And in just about 7 minutes now, they'll be ready to go. Those are the umpires. That's the way they're lined up. And as you know, the umpires are switched each day through the series, whether it goes 4, 5, 6, or 7 games, and they go clockwise around. In other words, the man on third today will be at the plate tomorrow. That is Owen. And they switch from day to day, going with the clock. I believe that Dizzy Dean and Al Crowder will pitch. I think that that's official. Mickey Cochran has said he will pitch Al Crowder. And Frankie Frisch comes through with Dizzy Dean. Dizzy, you know, has been hanging around Frankie Frisch's coattails for the past 3 days. Every time he got an opportunity to speak to his manager, he'd say, Frisch, can I pitch the opening game? And Frisch would look at him and say, maybe. Well, that didn't do Dizzy much good for a while, I suppose, because he just didn't know where he was standing, and he was just wild to pitch this game. But finally, Frankie came through and allowed his great ace, who has, with his brother, practically cinched the pennant for the National League team, the Cardinals, will pitch the first game. Star for Detroit, who was one of the outstanding features of the year to bring Detroit the flag, will not work today. He will probably be pitched in the second game, possibly against Daffy Dean, Dizzy's brother, tomorrow afternoon. That is Schoolboy Rowe. But today, it almost certainly will be Dizzy Dean and Al Crowder. Dizzy Dean for the Cardinals, Al Crowder for the Tigers. And now, let me go through the lineup for the afternoon. I believe this to be correct, and if there are any changes, we will give them to you when they are announced. We'll give you the visitors first. St. Louis Cardinals. Leading off, Martin, Pepper Martin, who simply walked away with a World Series in his pocket several years ago. That was, in my experience, the greatest one-man effort I have ever seen in baseball. Pepper Martin, third base for the Cardinals. Rothrock, R-O-T-H-R-O-C-K, right field. Frankie Frisch, manager, second base. Medwick in the cleanup position, left field. Medwick. Collins at first base. Delancey. Delancey. Catching. Orsatti. Orsatti. Center field. Durocher. Durocher. Shortstop. Durocher, one of the greatest of all shortstops in the field. Not a terrific batter, but a marvel down there, getting in the way of those balls and getting them over to first base. And Jerome Dean, pitching for the Tigers. Detroit, White is the leadoff man, center field. Mike Cochran has put himself in the second position. Mike used to bat third and fourth, you know, cleaning up. But now he is up in second place. Cochrane, catching. Geringer, Gehringer. Marvelous batting boy that plays second base for the Detroit Tigers, and one of the real reasons why Detroit is up there and in this series today. Greenberg, last year, just a rookie practically, just another first baseman, and today, one of the big talked of baseball stars. Greenberg, first base. And then that old Washington boy, whose acquisition was one of Cochran's big, fine steps this year. Bruce Goslin. You know, we've seen him playing World Series in Washington these many years. Now he's over with Detroit because Cochran was wise enough to pick him up. Rogel at short. R-O-G-E-double-L. Short. Owen at third base, O-W-E-N. Fox in right field, and Al Crowder will do the pitching. The umpires, we will repeat. There has been a change in the umpires in their position. We gave you what we had, but there has been a change. Owen is behind the plate. Clem, Bill Clem, at first base. Geisel at second base, and Reardon will be over at third. And now it's just 2.5 minutes before this ball game is going to begin. And I'm going to turn this microphone over, let the boys who are going to work inning by inning talk for a moment just to loosen up their whistles a little bit so that they'll get started on the right foot. First, Ford Bond will speak to you for a moment. He will turn the microphone over to Tom Manning. Ford Bond of New York and Tom Manning of Cleveland. We're going to call him his nickname, but I believe we've stopped calling him that nickname. Tom, what do you think of that? Anyway, Ford Bond will speak, then Tom will speak to you, and boys, who's going to start the game? Tom Manning, 4.5 innings. Tom Manning will work 4.5 innings, followed by Ford Bond for 4.5 innings. And now the umpires and the managers are about home plate. Talking the situation over for a moment, talking of certain ground rules, and getting ready to go. The field is cleared. All that's out there in the field are a few fielders lying on the ground. And come on, Ford, take this microphone. Ford Bond. The boys are just about ready to go out and start this man's ball game for the first game of the 1934 World Series between the St. Louis Cardinals and the Tigers of Detroit. There's the national anthem. Let's listen. for just a moment to those Gene brothers again. St. Louis won 15 shutouts this year. The teams scoring 12 of them, and the balance of the staff 3. Boys, listen to that crowd here as the boys go out into the field. Jerome won 7 of those 12 shutouts, and Paul 5. The balance of the staff 3, and Paul also had his great no-hit game against Brooklyn. Now, the boys are out in the field, and in just a few moments, this ball game is going to start, opening the series, and my old pal Tommy Manning of Cleveland, come on in.
Thank you, Graham. Good afternoon, everybody. We're over at Haven Field, Detroit, today. What a season this has been in baseball. What 2 teams we have out here, the color galore. The Team brothers. It's Jizzy and Daffy. It's that kind of a series, if you please. Over here in Detroit, for the first time in the history of the World Series, we've been postponed for 20 minutes to allow the crowd to get in. These fans here are so excited, so enthused over the expectancy of the color in this World Series that they have all taken it good nature. The band has just left the field. Detroit Tigers are out there now tossing the ball around. That old black pill that they've been using throughout the season. It's so black that it looks like a piece of coal. And that veteran right-hander, formerly of the Washington Senators, General Crowder, who pitched a great season in 1933, but faltered in the World Series. Perhaps due to overwork. He is out there, being acclaimed again by these enthusiastic Detroit Tigers. Manager Mike Cochran, one of the greatest catchers of all time, goes through the receiving. Here's the last-minute official lineup again. For St. Louis, Pepper Martin at third. Jack Rothrock in right. Manager Frisch at second. Medwick in left. Collins at first. Delancey, Cat. Orsatti, center. DeRocher, short. And the great Jerome Jizzy Dean in the box. They say he's busy. I wish we was busy too. For Detroit, White, center. Manager Cochran, Cat. Geringer, second. Hank Greenberg, first. Bruce Goslin, left. Billy Rogel, short. Owen, third. They say he's the most improved player in the majors this year. Fox in right field. Crowder pitching. Umpire Vic Owen behind the bat. Clem at first. Geisel at second. Reardon at third. The umpire calls play ball. Pepper Martin, the right-hand hitter, is stepped into the box. A great cheer goes up. General Crowder takes his glove off, stands back near the rosin bag, looks out towards center field. He has his outfielders all spotted. The old General steps up on the rubber. It won't be long now. Cochran runs behind the plate. Pepper Martin taking his aim, swinging that old bat up and down. In that bluish gray uniform with cardinal red. He's swinging the bat up and down. Up goes Crowder's arm. The World Series is on. The first pitch. It's a bounder down third base. Owen has it. He whips it across the diamond. Greenberg. And Martin is out. And away. The first ball pitch. General Crowder taking a slow wind-up. Hits that ball over the heart of the plate. Pepper Martin, the right-hand batter, swung on 2 hops. Clive Owen stepped over. Nonchalantly picked it up. Tossed it over to big Hank Greenberg. The series is on. The Cardinals in the first inning. 1 out. Nobody on. Jack Rothrock, formerly of the American League, playing a great game in right field for the Cardinals. He bats from left-handed, reputed to be a very fast runner, one of the fastest in the major leagues. The pitch, it's outside, ball 1. Jack Rothrock takes a slow, easy aim at the pitcher, and here it comes. And there it goes, a high fly to center field. Out in the center field, and White is waiting for it. He has it. 2 and out. White puts that old ball into Johnny Geringer. Geringer to Owens to Greenberg. To Owens to Greenberg. They almost knock each other down. Then Greenberg fondles the ball a moment, crosses it over to General Crowder, and we're ready to go. Frankie Fish, the manager of the Cardinals. A left-hand hitter is that bat. He's a switch hitter, you know. And here it is. White ball, a fast ball, right down the old alley. Strike 1 on the Cardinal manager, Frankie Fish. 2 men out in the first inning. Nobody is on. The windup, the pitch. A half swing, but it's declared a ball. And the count is ball 1 and strike 1. Frankie Fish is all set to lamb base that one clear out on the cherry shoot, as they call it. And now the count of the Cardinal manager. Ball one and strike one. Quick steps out of the box. Gets a pinch of dirt. Knocks the ducks off his shoes, and he's back in there again. The signal and the windup. Ball one, strike one, throughout, nobody on. Here it is. He swings at the ground ball. The fly ball backs down. It's over near short. Owens goes over, retrieves the ball, but is unable to make a play. And I'm sure it is a base hit for the Cardinal manager, Frankie Quick. That was a ground ball. It is scored as an error. That ball was hit to the left of Bob Owens. He leaped over for it, batted it over towards shortstop. The Rogel was running over to back him up. He batted it over to the regular shortstop position and was unable to make a play. It is scored as an error for Bob Owens, the third baseman. Now we have Joey Medwick up. Hits the first ball, pitches a base hit into left field. Frisch is rounding second base. Dowson retrieves the ball, puts it into Rogel at third. Frisch stops to second. A single. Now we have runners on first and second. Frankie Frisch is on second. Medwick. Frankie Frisch on second. Medwick on first. 2 men out in the first inning. And Rip Collins, who has hit 35 home runs this year. For the St. Louis Cardinals, the left-hand batter is up. General Crowder, a right-hand pitcher, is in the box. Gets his signal. Looks out towards second. And here it is. Hits the first ball. It's a drive into center field. White is backing up. He's under it. He has it. And a ball for the Cardinals in the first inning. No runs, 1 hit, and 1 error. Runners remain on first and second at the conclusion of the first half of the first inning. Come in for it.
That was a tense moment with 2 men on, 2 out. And Rick Collins is back. Man who has slapped out 35 homers this year. Here's the way that inning worked. Martin came up, smacked the first pitch down the third, and was out on the fast throw from Owen over to Greenberg. Reached the first backer just about 5 feet before the runner got there. Then Rothrock came up, slapped the second pitch on a high fly, sailing way out into center field with a hard-driven ball. But JoJo White was there when it came down, and 2 men were out. Frankie Frisch came up. Frankie Frisch drove one hard to the left of Marv Owen. Down on third, he came out, got his hands on the ball, and Frisch went on down to first with base on Owen Barrett. So we're calling it Owen Barrett, base down on first. Medwick came up, slapped the ball hard out into left field. Frisch moved on down to second. Actually, he wanted to circle it, and Goose Goslin rammed it on into third base. Collins came up without on that fly, but here is the Tigers half the first, and Tom Manning to give it to you. All right, Tom.
JoJo White, left-hand hitter, center field of the Tigers, in his white uniform with the blue letters. He's up there. The first pitch from Dizzy Dean. Strike one, call. Up burning, fastball, held high, right down the old alley for a call strike. Dizzy Dean is out there wearing that big smile, just as confident as he has been in his 30 victories in the past 2. The windup, a long, lean windup, and here it is. A hook ball is low inside. Ball one and strike one. It's the last half of the first inning. In his old World Series ball game at Haven Field, Detroit. You're receiving the description through the National Broadcasting Company. Ball one and strike one. The pitch. Ball 2. A fastball. This is the outside corner of the plate. And the count on the left-hand hitter, JoJo White, is ball 2 and strike one. He is the leadoff man of the Tigers. Delancey the catcher, and here's the pitch. Ball 3. A fastball. It drives JoJo White away from the plate. And the count on the first Tiger hitter, ball 3 and strike one. Boy, oh boy, that Dizzy Dean certainly has plenty on that ball. There it is. It's a strike. Right down the middle, and the count on JoJo White is ball 3 and the strike 2. Dizzy Dean swinging those big arms that come down almost to his knees. What a big fellow he is. Here's the windup. The count is 3 and 2. There it is. There it goes. It's a ground ball. Down short. DeRosa has it. He hits it to Collins. And JoJo White is out. That was comparatively an easy catch. DeRosa taking that ball about 12 high. And a nice throw right over, shoulder high to Collins. And the Tigers have 1 man out in the first inning. Mike Cochran gets a great hand as he steps to the plate. Manager Mike Cochran in his first year as manager of the American League. He's back to left-handed. Here's the first pitch to Mike. Ball 1. A fastball is low and just a little bit inside. The last half of the first inning. No scorers yet. 1 man out. Nobody on. Cochran up. And it's ball 1. Dizzy Dean, right-handed is pitching. Delancey catching. Here it comes. It's a ball. The fastball is outside. That was close. And the count on Mickey Cochran is 2-0. Guy Perkins is coaching at first, Baker at third. One out, nobody on. Ball to the pitch. Strike, ball. That was a nice fast one. Over the plate, well high. And now the count on manager Cochran. Ball 2 and strike 1. Charlie Gehringer, the Tiger second baseman, hanging around home plate. The pitch. He swings. It's a ground to first. Frisch is down on his knees. He comes up. Out at first. Frisch to Collins. That was a hard ground ball. Manager Frisch goes down on both knees. He stumbled momentarily, but came up with the ball, tossed it over to Collins, and Cochran is out. Now we have 2 in out, and nobody on. Charlie Gehringer, one of the greatest second basemen of all time, gets his great hand as he steps to the plate. It's a great marvelous ball here for the Tigers, and he gets his great hand as he steps up to the batter's box. He's also a left-hand hitter. Charlie had a great battle on this year, you know, for the batting leadership of the American League. The first pitch, it's a strike call. Charlie Gehringer elected to look that first one over. Dizzy Dean is in the box, you know. General Crowder for Detroit. Last half of the first inning, 2 out, nobody on. No score as yet. Here's the windup. Strike 1 on the hitter. Ball. That was a third ball that missed the outside corner. And Dizzy Dean takes his head just a little bit. And now it is ball 1 and strike 1. 2 men out. Last half of the first inning, and nobody on. Here's the windup. 1-1. The pitch. It's a sweeping hook ball that is low inside. Gehringer steps back. Ball 2 and strike 1. Gehringer pulls quite a bit away from the plate on that last pitch. It's sort of a change of space offering. Now it's ball 2 and strike 1. The windup. The pitch. He swings. It's a base hit. A base hit in left field. Ball out there is received by Joey Medwick. He whips it into Rio Carosa at second. And Charlie Gehringer is on first base. A ringing single to left field. That is the first Tiger hit of the World Series. Hank Greenberg is coming up. Hank Greenberg is a big Tiger first backer, a right-hand hitter. Frankie Frisch takes up his position at second and is ran in to back with Dizzy Dean. Now he's going back again. The last half of the first inning, 2 men. Pepper retired. Charlie Gehringer on first, and Hank Greenberg is back. The outfielders are moving back, ready for the pitch, and here it is. It's a ball ball down third base. Pepper Martin comes up with it to third. He is out at first. That was a beautiful play by Pepper Martin. He went far to his left, reached for the ball, and threw it over there, just off the ground to Rip Collins at first base, and that is all for the Tigers in the first inning. No runs, 1 hit, and no errors. Gehringer was left on the base. Come in, Ford.
White came up to start off the Tigers part of this ball game here in the first inning. White banged a hot one down to Leo DeRocher, who took it fast, got it over to Rip Collins on first, and 1 man was gone for the Tigers in the first inning. Cochran then came up, Mickey Cochran. Cochran banged one down to Frisch. Frisch stumbled, went down hard after the ball, but came up with it and wanged it over to Collins, and 2 men were out. 2 out, nobody on. Gehringer came up. Gehringer got a hold of Lever and lifted it out on a drive into left field. Single over the shortstop's head, and he was down on first. There he was on first with big Hank Greenberg. Hank Greenberg, a mighty man with a bat, up there to face Dizzy Dean. He drove one down to Martin. Martin took it prettily, whammed it over to Collins, and they were down 4 men up and 3 out for the Tigers in the first inning. No runs, 1 hit, no errors. And 2 big zeros hang out there on the scoreboard in right field. A 0 for St. Louis and 1 for Detroit at the end of the first inning. Going into the second now, here is Durante coming up to bat for the Cards, and Tom Manning to give you the second inning. All right, Tom.
General Crowder, that right-hand veteran, is out there in the box to wind up the first pitch to Delancey, the left-hand hitter. He hits the first ball, it's a long poke to left field. Johnson is back near the barrier. Under it, he has it. That was a long drive about 5 feet from the barrier in deep left field. Bruce Johnson backing up, taking the ball, then flips it over to Jojo White in center. White to O'Gell, to Owens, to Gehringer, to Greenberg. over. And now General Carter again has the ball with his glove off, handling the ball in his bare hand. He gets a bit of rosin, and we're ready to go again. Ernie Orchatti, the center fielder of the St. Louis Cardinals for the National League is up. He hits the first ball pitch. It's a hit into left field. He was a left-hand batter, and he cracked the first ball pitch. A line drive into left field. The ball is received by Cruz Gosselin. He returns it to Rochelle at second. It's a single for Ernie Orchatti. That's the second hit of the afternoon for the Cardinals. That brings Leo DeRosa up. Leo DeRosa, you know, backs him right-handed. He is a little shortstop of the St. Louis Cardinals. Carter is pitching and Cochran catching. Here's the first pitch. It's a strike call. General puts that one in there. Letter high. Letter high, as Bill Mundy would say. Here's the next pitch to Leo DeRosa. Ball one. That was a hook ball. That was a little bit outside, and the count on DeRosa is ball one and strike one. In the second inning, one man out. There's a strike over to first. Nothing happened. Carter has the ball again in the box. Leo DeRosa batting. Ball one, strike one, the pitch. He swings at the poke high out of the center field. Jojo White backing up a bit. Under it, he's waiting. And he has it. Two men out in the first half of the second inning. The Cardinals batting. And we still have Orchatti on first base. Now, Jerome Dizzy Dean is coming up. In the hotel lobby this morning, Will Rogers. He needs no introduction. Said, how's the old arm, Dizzy? Said, well, it's okay. Says the Whites don't want me to pitch, but Gold's gone. When there's a ball game and any pitching to be done on the pitcher. And there he is. He's in there pitching. And here's the first pitch to Dizzy. He swings it to foul back. Strike one. And when Dizzy Dean asked Will Rogers how he was getting along, particularly over Russia, he said, well, Dizzy, they had me play in the outfield. He said, I didn't do any pitching. But they had a great time together. They're two great fellows, Will Rogers and Dizzy Dean. All right, it's the last half of the second inning, you know, two men out. Orchatti on first, and the count on Dizzy Dean is strike one. Here's the pitch. He swings at the bounding ball. Down there, second Rochelle has it, tosses to Geringer. And Geringer drops the ball, and everybody is safe. That was a ground ball, and Willie Rochelle tossed an easy one over to Geringer, and Geringer drops the ball, and now we have runners on first and second. We've been delayed a moment while Dizzy Dean is putting on that strike Cardinal sweater. The strike was all right, and Charlie Geringer, the second baseman of the Tigers, is charged with an error. Now we have Orchatti on second. Dean on first. Two men out. And Pepper Martin. Pepper Martin, the star of the series of 31. Boy, will you ever forget what he did in that series. He stole bases. He hit home runs. He climbed up on the fence. He snagged ground drives. And here he is again. Pepper Martin was slowly getting into the box. He was in there, but Carter was ready to pitch, and he jumped out of the box quickly. And all ready to go again. Pepper Martin was up the first pitch. Foul back, strike one. Pepper Martin wasn't sitting on that swing. Let that bat go from way back that time. No scorers yet. The first half of the second inning. Orchatti is on second. Dizzy Dean is on first. And Pepper Martin is up with two outs. Strike one. General Carter, a right-hander pitching. Cochran catching. Here it comes. It's a foul back. Pepper Martin lets the bat slip out of his hand, and it flies through over to the boxes in back of home plate. Now we have strike two on Pepper Martin. We have runners on first and second to no scorers yet in this first World Series ball game from Maven Field, Detroit. Pepper Martin's back in the box again now. Right to the south. Here it is. It's a bounding ball down third base. The big hat. Horn has it. Here's the throw. And the throw is fly. And everybody is safe. The bags are loaded. Harbaugh took that ball. He backed up on it. Then threw it flag to Hank Greenberg. Pulling Greenberg off the bag. And now we have the back loaded, as it were. And two men out. That is an error for third base from Orange. That is the third error of the afternoon for the Tigers. And here's the picture as you see it now. Ernie Orsatti is on third base. Dizzy Dean is on second base. Pepper Martin is on first base. And we have 2 men out. Jack Rothrock is coming up. The last time up, Rothrock hit a fly ball to JoJo White in center field. He back the left hand of the pitch. Ball run. Crowder's football was low inside. As we gaze around at the bullpen, nobody warming up as yet. It's the first half of the second inning. The Cardinals have the bags loaded, 2 men out. The windup, and here it is. Strike call. That was a fast one. Fell high, and now the count on. Jack Rothrock is up there hitting it all. The bags loaded. 2 men out, and the bags are loaded. Here it is. It's a drive in the center field. The base hit into left center field. Orsatti is coming in. Dean is rounding second. Third base coming in. The throw is to the infield. And Pepper Martin goes to third base. 2 runs score for the St. Louis Cardinals. Here's the picture again. The bags were loaded. Jack Rothrock was up there, and he hit a line drive into left center field. It was a single, and it takes Orsatti across the plate. Also Dizzy Dean. Pepper Martin went to third. Rothrock stopped at first, and it is now St. Louis 2, Detroit nothing. Runners on first and third, 2 men out, and manager Frankie Fish coming up. Frankie chops him left-handed, you know, with a right-hand pitcher in the box. The pitch, it's a foul, strike 1. That was certainly a crack by Jack Rothrock, a line drive into left center field. For a moment it looked like extra bases, but JoJo White was over there, took the ball on the second hop, and whipped it in there to Rodell, holding Rothrock at first. Here's the pitch. It's a long foul upstairs. Strike 2 on Frankie Fish. First half of the second inning, you know, St. Louis Cardinals 2, Detroit Tigers nothing. Frankie Fish, the manager of the Cardinals, who stepped out of the batter's box for a moment. Knocked the dust off his shoes, and now he's back in there again with runners on first and third. 2 men out. First half of the second inning. Crowder takes the stretch, and here's the pitch. It's too high outside. Ball 1. With a count 2-0, Crowder elected to try to get Fish to swing at a high, fast one outside. And now we have strike 2, ball 1. Frankie Fish was batting left-handed this afternoon against the right-hand slant of Crowder. Runners on first and third. 2 out. Here it is. He swings. It's a foul ball. Gallagher fumbles the ball. Retrieves it quickly. Crosses the Greenberg. And pushes out at first base. That was a nice play by Charlie Gallagher. A ground ball between Gallagher and Greenberg. Gallagher coming over far to his left. Knocks the ball down. Momentarily. Turned all the way around. And then crossed the Greenberg. Getting first at first base.